A lot to get through here. Joining us with his insight on those investigations, the mayor's race, and more is WGN political analyst Paul Lisnek.
Hey, guys. Hey, I want to just clarify one thing. So, yes, Evan Corcoran drafted that letter, but he didn't sign it. He had somebody else sign the lawyer, and she's in trouble too.
We'll try to sort out all the Trump stuff.
I just wanted to clarify.
A lot to explain. Yeah.
Let's start with the mayor's race here. Some notable endorsements here. Vallis gets fellow former CPS CEO Arne Duncan, and then Johnson gets Bernie Sanders here. He's coming out for a rally. Duncan wrote an impassioned piece in the Trib here. Talk to me about the endorsements and what you make of how close the race is right now.
And also Vallis picking up some significant support in the Latino community
with
today.
Maldonado.
With Maldonado and Iris Martinez and others. So here's the thing. I think we talked about this last week, and I made the point that I think endorsements don't matter all that much. They can push somebody over who's not sure, or hey, I really like this particular, like Jesse White matters to me, so that might influence him. But the Bernie Sanders thing is really interesting because what it made me think of was in the November elections, Mary Miller of the 15th District, who was running against Rodney Davis, and most things looked like Rodney Davis would pull it out. She brings Trump in right at the 11th hour, and that turned everything around for her in that election. Is Bernie Sanders that kind of game changer? I don't know, but there is a magic about Bernie, and we'll see what the crowd, I'm sure we'll report on it. We'll see what the crowd is tomorrow, what the energy is tomorrow. That could give Johnson a significant boost if that's a successful event.
Maybe the push that he may need to win this thing. In the meantime, there's polls out. We just saw one that's got Vallis ahead, sort of slightly.
It's within the margin of error, and there's still a little over 9% of people who are uncertain, so it's anybody's race. But, you know, it should also be no surprise to us, to our viewers, that this race is going to be very close. And I don't think we're going to be sitting here on election night going into it saying, well, this is clear-cut. It's going to be a close race, and it's going to once again be a turnout game, and everybody's got to get their people to the polls.
Before we move on to Trump, what do you expect here the next 10 days, other than the Bernie Sanders and the Arne Duncan? I mean, any other endorsements that we should be looking at that may be coming in the last, 7-8 days?
Will Lori Lightfoot endorse?
Yeah.
If she does. And again, it could be a mixed bag depending on how it's received, but I think that's the one everybody's waiting for. There are just a few aldermen who have not endorsed. Scott Waguespack has not endorsed yet. He may do something just before the election. We'll see. He's the Finance Committee chair, whatever. So there's still a few of those things.
That may come out.
You don't get the sense that there's any, well, I would call it generically October surprise, although we're not in October. But I don't get the sense that there's anything in the wind coming, but who knows in the week left.
All right, in the mountain of all this stuff that is weighing down on Donald Trump, we learned today he will not be able to claim executive privilege with respect to the Capitol riot investigation. Tell us what the next step in this would be now.
So some of the names, you mentioned Mark Meadows and 7 others. I just want to mention a couple of the other names because people may have forgotten these people, but Ken Cuccinelli, who ran Homeland Security, and he was involved with the issue of will we seize voting machines. Stephen Miller, who was Trump's speechwriter. Bob O'Brien, National Security Advisor. Dan Scavino. These are big names who surrounded Trump. So that's what's interesting. So the next step is going to be, they're all going, as Evan Corcoran on the Mar-a-Lago case was called in to testify today, and reports are he did not take the fifth, that he answered the questions, which would suggest he doesn't think he did anything wrong. If he thought he was in trouble, he would have pled the fifth. So he didn't. So he's got either he's saying, look, I'm part of this, but I'm coming clean, or I was told by President Trump to do all of these things, and I thought he was telling me the truth. With all these other people who are being ordered to testify, it's going to be the same question. If they take the fifth, they might have something that they're hiding and they face their own prosecution against it. They may not, and they may just speak. The executive privilege option, that's been taken away. But what the prosecutors can do, if somebody takes the fifth, is say, all right, Mark Meadows, we're going to give you immunity. Anything you say to us cannot be used against you. And if you refuse to talk now, then we prosecute you. You cannot say no if we give you immunity. That's going to be the next decision to watch by Jack Smith, because I think people like Meadows will probably plead the fifth.
In the meantime, Trump is headed to Waco for a rally this weekend.
30th anniversary of what happened in Waco.
He does seem to be intensifying some of his rhetoric, and his critics are saying, look, that's leading to bad stuff already. You've got the DA who received a letter with white powder inside, and that led to a whole issue today and made big headlines.
Look, there's no question that when President Trump speaks, his followers listen and react. He did put a picture up of himself on Truth Social with a bat in his hand and Alvin Bragg, and that got a lot of flack. That's now been taken down. So maybe word didn't get back to him, and he did take that down. But there's no question that he's saying some things that are sort of concerning rhetoric that go out there. The trip to Waco, look, it's one of his first really public outdoor rallies that we've seen in this contest. We'll see. I'm especially going to watch, and I'll be watching it to see what kind of rhetoric he's using and what he says.
We'll see. Okay, and you've got your show coming up this weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so on Sunday morning at 9 o'clock, Scott Waguespack, Alderman, joins me. As I said, he hasn't endorsed yet. We'll see what he says on Sunday. But he's talking about the effort of City Council to go independent. They really want to be independent from the mayor. And a professor named Paul Rosenzweig, former prosecutor, will join me. We're going to talk Trump stuff, but from his perspective as a prosecutor, federal prosecutor, he's a really interesting guy. So we'll be
Okay.
talking about that.
Okay.
Sunday morning.
Oh,
Thank
and we're
you.
going to do a review of the debate so that we can get a little Lourdes in the show as well.
Right here, right here.
Save the best
Give
for
me
last.
a high five. Yeah.
Hey, you got it.
Thank you.
Oh, I thought you were blocking my face.
Never, Paul,
You
never.
young people.
Oh, never, never.